Good morning and happy Christmas Eve morning to everyone who's in my time zone, California time zone. And starting story time with Joyce earlier this morning, but the video will remain, so if you are following the story. So we're in the chapter 23, and it's called Farewell. One afternoon when Betty was preparing food for the house's dinner, she heard a knock at the door. When she answered and opened it, she was quite surprised to see John's brother standing on the other side. Before she could say anything, Harry, his brother, said, "Betty, John has been taken to the hospital." "What happened?" Betty asked. Harry answered as he entered the house. "He collapsed at the meeting. Come on, I'll take you to the hospital." Betty grabbed her purse and keys and asked, "Oh, Harry, what do you think is wrong?" "Betty, I think my brother had a heart attack." Betty started crying and muttering over and over, "Oh, I hope not, I hope not, I hope not." Harry continued to console Betty on the way to the hospital, although he feared the worst. Harry and Betty approached the window of the emergency room, and Harry said, "We are here to see John Payson. This is his wife, Mrs. Payson." The nurse behind the window said, "Wait here, I'll get the doctor." It wasn't long before a man with a stethoscope draped around his neck came through a door. As he walked over to them, he asked, "Mrs. Payson?" Betty answered, "Yes. Your husband had a massive heart attack. We were not able to save him," the doctor said as he escorted Betty to a chair. "Oh, Harry, what am I going to do without Pa?" Betty said, using the nickname she called him. Harry sat down next to her, took her hand, and said, "Betty, it's going to be okay. Let me take you home. I can take care of you the details from my brother's funeral." Betty stood up and said, "I want to see him. Doctor, can I see him?" "A bet, of course. I'll take you both." Betty stared down at the lifeless body of her husband of 10 years. She had so many thoughts running through her mind that she wasn't able to define what she was really thinking. Betty turned around and asked, "Harry, will you take me home now?" "Of course, and Judy and I will stay with you tonight." "Thanks, I'll call Ruth and Carol and let them know." Betty was devastated. After she called the girl, she called Serena, her best friend, and asked if she would come over, and Serena, of course, said yes. When she got off the phone with Serena, Betty said, "Harry, you and Judy don't have to stay tonight. Serena's going to stay with me. Please take care of everything for me. I really don't know how to do such things." "Of course, I'll wait here until your friend gets here," Harry responded. "No need, she'll be here in a minute." The truth of the matter was Betty felt she needed a few minutes alone. Harry reluctantly left Betty. He didn't like leaving her alone in the big house. As he drove away, he saw Serena walking up to the house. He felt very relieved. As soon as Serena walked in the door, she hugged Betty and said, "Betty, I am so, so sorry. Thanks for coming over. I don't know what I'm going to do without Pa. He took care of everything. This is his house. I don't know what's going to happen to me," Betty said with a worried look on her face. "Don't go worrying yourself about that now. Let me make you some tea." "I'm sure everything will work out," Serena said. Serena stayed with Betty for the next few days and kept Betty from worrying about what's next. John's brother Harry did make all the arrangements for the funeral. Betty, Ruth, and Carol were in the car that led over 20 cars meandering through the city heading toward the cemetery. Betty, Ruth, and Carol were in the car that led over 20 cars, as I said, and once the cars were all parked, there were city officials, Democratic committee heads, district aldermen, family and friends, all huddled together around the gravesite. John was an architectural engineer for the city. He was part of the design team for the first expressway in Chicago. But he died before he ever saw it. His entire team was there from the city, paying tribute to John and paying tribute to the soon-to-be-open freeway that he was the architectural design for. On the way home, Carol leaned over and asked, "Mama, how are you doing?" "I'm fine, Carol, just tired is all." Harry invited some people back to the house, so I'm glad we're all on our way home, Betty responded. When Betty got home, there was a sea of people. People coming in with pies and cakes and sandwiches and casseroles and fruit of all kinds. She wasn't up to being with so many people. Betty paid her respects to everyone, went upstairs, and passed out on the bed she once shared with her husband, John, of 10 years. Carol curled up next to her. They both slept all through the night. So that chapter was farewell. So have a wonderful evening. And I want to thank everyone who has been purchasing Betty. We've had people from Japan and Bangladesh, India. It's been very exciting to know that the book Betty is going over throughout so many countries. If you are interested in buying the book Betty, you can go to Amazon.com, or you can go to my website, JoyceBennett-Hall.com, and just click on the book and it'll take you right to Amazon. All books, Betty. The second book in the trilogy is Ruth, and the third book is Carol, and they're all written by Joyce Bennett-Hall. Have a great holiday Christmas for those of you who celebrate Christmas, and may it be filled with lots of love and many, many blessings. Until next week, bye-bye.